Hello, you're listening to Count Richard von Coudenhove Clergy. Today is Thursday, the 4th of December, and a rather nice, bright, crisp day it is too. What have we got there now? 7 degrees. So I suppose the purpose of a video today is I want to talk about the launch of a group called the Women's Coalition for Immigration, which took place in Buswells Hotel last Tuesday. At the same time, Zelensky was over here getting another 125 million from the Irish government, which brings the total that the Irish government has pledged to 505 million, which by GDP is probably the 6th highest in the world after, I think, Denmark and Estonia. But interesting to note, while Zelensky's plane landed before 11 o'clock on the Monday evening, the Irish Air Corps had one of their CASA maritime patrol aircraft in a circular holding pattern at 14,000 feet for over an hour off the coast of Greystones and Kilcool. But so that was all. I just thought it was interesting. While this shenanigans were going on in the Dáil, the launch of this particular group was in Buswells, and I have permission from Una McGurk to post the recording that she made, a recording of the speech she made in Buswells Hotel there. And I think it was an excellent speech. Interesting to note that Gript didn't cover that aspect of her speech. Now, I first saw Una speak back in, I think it was 22nd of August 2021, where she spoke about outside the Custom House amongst other speakers, and she spoke about the over-amplification of the PCR test and the complications as a result of that, and also the fact that the PCR test cannot tell the difference between flu and COVID. And interesting to note that they're still advertising get your flu and COVID jab, even though in the UK only 1 in 10 members of the NHS has taken the flu jab this season, and over here, to my knowledge, less than 7% are of all HSE workers are up to date with the COVID vax. Less than 7%, so imagine that. So even though the organisation that's still promoting and pushing it, its members aren't taking it themselves. Gee, I wonder why. And also, I'm going to include in my video an interview with a gentleman from the Social Democrats in Denmark, talking about the correlation between migration and crime, something which certain members of the Social Democrats over here can't get their head around. Although if you put it in practical terms, when during COVID, if you had an increase in PCR testing, you had an increase in people testing positive. So I don't understand why the logic for one doesn't transfer into the common sense of the other. So I'd like to include that in the video. But and to thank Una for her permission for showing the video here, and so please like and share and comment. I look forward to reading your comments afterwards, and I always try and reply to both. Now, interesting to note, on the corner there is a pub called the Yellow House, built in 1827, so that's coming up to its 200th anniversary very shortly. A fine building it is too, lovely yellow bricks, quite similar to the one in Delir Street. And across the road there you can see the Rathfarnham Church. A very nice old building it is too, and with a font outside that dates back to pre-famine and penal laws.
Drones breached a no-fly zone and flew towards Volodymyr Zelensky's plane as it came into land during his visit to Ireland. Zelensky's flight landed in Dublin ahead of schedule. However, if it had been on time, the drones would have been directly in the flight path of the plane. Before zooming towards the Ukrainian leader's aircraft, the mystery UAVs circled an Irish Navy vessel that was deployed specially for the state visit. It is unknown exactly where the drones were launched from or who was operating them, but sources reported that the drones originated from northwest Dublin. Sources told the Wall Street Journal that the drones were of a military grade and remained in flight for approximately 2 hours. Security experts have expressed concern that this incident could be another act of Putin's hybrid warfare strategy against Ukraine's allies. Sources suspect the aim of the drones was to disrupt Zelensky's arrival into Dublin as the UAVs had their lights turned on. Europe has been on high alert following a spate of drone incidents at international airports such as Brussels, Berlin and Denmark.
Now, this is a copy of the tweet from Lawyers for Justice Ireland, which contained that recording of Una McGurk, and she raised some very important issues here. And unlike Denmark and other countries which are now starting to record the nationality and ethnic background of people involved in crime, it should be something that should be introduced to help better understand what's going on.
McGurk is my name. So firstly, I'd like to thank Leisha and Barbara for the very kind invitation to speak at this press conference and the launch of the Women's Coalition Immigration Initiative. It is a very worthy endeavour, and I wish them and all involved every success. So today I just would like to comment on an issue that is very relevant for all of us here today, and also for the group in particular. And it's this: I'm sure many of you are wondering why we in Ireland do not have any official statistics or data on immigrant crime. Because we don't. Unlike other European countries such as Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Italy, etc. And the reason is very simple. Such information is not recorded on the Garda Pulse system. So what is Pulse? Pulse is an Irish recording system used by the Gardaí, which tracks criminal proceedings from arrest to court outcomes. A crime is recorded on Pulse when it is reported or discovered, as opposed to waiting for an investigation to be concluded. There is no official policy of recording nationality or ethnicity on the Pulse system, only name, age and date of birth. So why is this? It seems that an expert group on crimes, which was set up by the then Minister for Justice in 2017, claimed that there was no mandatory field to record nationality on Pulse, other than the Immigration Act of 2004, which is relevant when people are just coming into the country. Therefore, the report concluded that Gardaí had no statutory powers to obtain this information. However, this expert report is highly questionable because it did not take into account a relevant EU directive, an EU law enforcement directive which came into force in 2016. This directive entitles law enforcement agencies to obtain details of a person's nationality for the purposes of the prevention, investigation and prosecution of criminal offences. So we have a questionable expert report which is being relied upon at the moment to inform Garda on the manner of the reporting of crimes on the Pulse system. As further evidence of this, a recent Garda Síochána policy document in 2020 entitled Guide on How Crime is Recorded does not include any metric of nationality or recording crime on Pulse. Any information obtained by the Gardaí is always only obtained on a voluntary basis. Pulse only records name, age and date of birth. In addition, a CSO report of 2023, and the CSO is the Central Statistics Office, confirms that data on nationality is not widely collected on the Pulse system, which is why they do not use it in compiling statistics on crime. Now, as you know, the Central Statistics Office is the agency which compiles statistics, including on crime. So the EU directive to which I have referred is the one which enables other countries such as Denmark and Sweden and Germany and France and Finland to collect accurate data on the nationality of their crime suspects. it is being used by them, but not in Ireland. So why is that? This EU directive was transposed into Irish law via the Data Protection Act of 2018. Therefore, there is no reason why nationality and ethnicity cannot be recorded on Pulse when relevant. Thereafter utilised by the CSO in compiling statistics and thus made available for checking patterns of crime and providing accurate and up-to-date information on the correlation between migration and crime. One has to ask the question, why has this not been done to date? This is a very basic requirement for any criminal justice system to accurately record the details of suspected offenders. If we do not have this information, how can crime prevention measures and procedures be put in place to protect and safeguard the Irish people? How can we have accurate data and statistics on the commission of crimes in Ireland? Furthermore, we have a very official and vague generalised statement by the Minister for Justice on the 18th of February in 2025 in response to a question by Deputy Peadar Tobin, which contradicts the CSO, suggesting that sometimes Pulse records nationality. However, because this is not a consistent or required policy, such data is not used by the CSO in any event. So the Minister must ensure that the Garda Commissioner makes it an official policy of An Garda Síochána to record nationality and ethnicity on Pulse. Bizarrely, the Minister has washed his hands of this issue, stating that the Garda Commissioner is responsible for the administration of the Pulse system. He also stated that, as Minister, I have no role in decisions in relation to the information which has been recorded on Pulse. This is not true. The Garda Commissioner has a duty to account to Government and the Minister, and in addition also has a general duty to advise the Minister on policing and security matters, and this is under the Policing, Security and Community Safety Act of 2024. Therefore, the Minister for Justice does have a role in relation to decisions regarding the recording of information on Pulse. That is why it is essential for the people of Ireland. They must lobby the Minister for Justice, the Garda Commissioner and the Central Statistics Office for an urgent review of the mandatory field on Pulse to include nationality and ethnicity. This is authorised under law by the Data Protection Act of 2018. The law has been in place now for the last 7 years and has not been acted on, to the detriment of the Irish people and the Irish criminal justice system. The system has been hiding the nationality of suspected offenders, which is essential data now, for 7 years. We cannot protect Irish people unless there is full transparency in our criminal justice system. So we have seen the power of the Irish people and what they can do when they get together as a collective. We've seen it in the referendum campaign last year on family and home and the care referendum, and just recently in the Spoil the Vote campaign. So let's see it again with a new campaign to make it obligatory for the Garda Síochána Pulse system to record details of the nationality and the ethnicity of all suspects for the commission of crimes within our jurisdiction. Thank you very much for your attention.
And this was taken from a recent poll regarding migration. Very interesting figures indeed. And this was violent crime conviction rates in Denmark by nation of origin from 2010 and 2021. And certain nationalities and cultural differences spring to mind very quickly. Isn't that shocking? And I'll now play that video from DW News.
Minister for Immigration and Integration, Rasmus Stockland. He visited his German counterpart, Alexander Dobrindt. Minister Stockland, Germany Germany's approach now is a turnaround in migration policy, to be stricter on migration policy, something that has Denmark already done years ago. What is the main recipe you told your counterpart today?
Well, I haven't told my counterpart any recipes because Germany is doing a good work itself, and I think it's very important that Germany, as the one of the biggest countries of Europe, is now sending a signal to both the rest of Europe, but also to human smugglers and to migrants considering whether to try to get into Europe, that it's not that easy anymore, and that we have strict rules and regulations, and that it will have consequences not to follow them. So I think it's an important partnership, and I'm very happy that a big country like Germany now shows some kind of inspiration for the rest of us.
But the image of Denmark is to be strict on migration policy for almost 10 years or over 10 years now. So what are you actually doing differently? Your numbers are much lower compared to Germany and also to Sweden. So what's the difference?
We have done a number of different things. First of all, we quite a long time ago realized that we wouldn't be able to maintain a high degree of social cohesion and trust in our society if we accepted migration from countries where there was too many people who ended up being unemployed and being criminal. And that was why we strengthened our regulation in a broad number of ways, which means that today it's relatively difficult to get access to live in Denmark. And for that reason, we are able to hold the numbers down. Family reunification is more difficult. You need to provide for yourself, welfare benefits are low, and so on.
So your aim is to deter migrants to come to Denmark at all, so they remain either in Germany or go on to Sweden. Is that also the deal?
No, our aim is to say that we need a new asylum system in Europe in general. That is something we've worked a lot with during our presidency in the European Union, because we think that the European asylum system in general is broken. Today it is human smugglers who are paid a lot of money by migrants with resources that control who get access to Europe. We don't think that is acceptable, and that is why we want to establish a new system where we can help a lot more people, but help them in the third world and help them close to the conflicts around the world, instead of helping a few number of relatively privileged people here in the western part of the world, or here in Europe.
Mm-hmm. You took over your post in September, and you're demanding or proposing more repatriation and more returns, even more remigration of asylum seekers and migrants from Denmark to their original countries. You are a social democrat. This sounds for German ears a little bit like far-right policies, like the Alternative for Germany here, the opposition party, is proposing. So are you actually have the same demands like the far-right here in Germany?
I don't consider it a far-right position. I consider it a very social democratic position, because we have built a welfare state that only exists because people are able to go to work and pay a lot of money in taxes. And when they pay almost half their income in taxes, they expect something from the society on the other hand, and they expect a welfare system that works, they expect hospitals that works, and a good school system, and so on. And they also expect a society that is not dominated by criminality or instability or by people who try to take advantage of it. And that is why we try to say that, well, we have this welfare model that we appreciate. We have a high degree of social cohesion and trust, and we want to maintain that. We won't accept parts of our cities where it's difficult or dangerous even to come, and we won't accept that people who arrive from the outside, they don't contribute by going to work or try to push different norms or religious behaviors that we won't accept. So we try to be relatively strict on these matters.
So remigration is one point. Another point is what is also included now in the European asylum system is to have asylum procedures directly at the borders of countries of first origin, and then to return migrants immediately. Denmark tried to establish a system to have asylum procedures outside Denmark, actually, that failed. Are you still pursuing this path?
We have actually had a lot of focus on that during our presidency, because if we're able to conclude together with the other member states that we can make lists of safe third countries, and we can make lists with safe countries of origin and so on, and also the ability to make return hubs, that would all in all mean that we would be able to, for instance, make a reception center, maybe with a couple of other member states of the European Union, where asylum seekers that arrived in Copenhagen, they then would be sent to, and then they would have their case handled there. And if they were allowed to have asylum, then they would be granted access to live there. But on the other hand, if they weren't, they would be sent back home. And that is what we aim to be able to establish, because right now we have a system where way too many people come to Europe, and then even though they are rejected because they don't have any ground for receiving asylum, they stay anyway, and that is just unacceptable in our view.
Tough migration measures in Denmark were also meant to keep down the rise of far-right or populist right-wing parties. You are Social Democrats. The People's Party is still rising, and in the recent elections you didn't do well actually in the communal and the local elections. So is this working? Can you keep right-wing parties low by tough migration policy?
That's a good question, but I'm not a political spectator, a commentator myself. I'm a politician, and I think I should present the policies that I think are the right policies, that would the solutions that I think would be the right ones to implement, and that is our focus. That is to implement policies that we think are right for Denmark, and we think it is both right and fair to say that people who arrive in Denmark, they should be able to take care of themselves, and they should be able to contribute positively. And they should also accept that we are a small democracy where men and women are equal, and where religious norms don't play a role in our society in general. That's something you have in your private life. And that is our position, and that is not that is not altered because of opinion polls that are low or something like that.
Did the German minister somehow indicate that he wants to copy your approach? Because also in Germany the far right is rising. It's neck to neck in polls with actually the conservatives. So is he eager to get something from you, how to do it?
Oh, I won't refer from my conversations with Alexander. We've had a lot of good conversations, and we look eye to eye on a lot of matters when it comes to this issue of how to control migration and how to secure that we maintain social cohesion in our societies. And I think we agree on a lot of things, and that is also why Germany and Alexander is a very important partner for us in the work we are trying to do, also during our presidency in the European Union.
Mr. Stockholm, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Lastly, I suppose, please like, share and subscribe, and I look forward to reading your comments, and to wish you all a very happy full moon Thursday. Most beautiful moon out there at the moment on a very clear night. How about that now? So I'll say good night, good luck, and God bless, and God save Ireland from all those who want to do her harm.